Okay, good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. This is the regular meeting of the Community Facilities Building Committee. I'm going to do a quick roll call, although it's a little easier with Zoom. I have people's names right in front of me. If you'll all give me a little leeway, because I am going to clerk first on this quick meeting tonight. But Mike's on too. A lot of people are outside, so we're going to do the best we can with this. All right, I'm going to start with you, Dawn Contafio.
Here.
Rich Kroll.
Here.
Christina Laris.
I am here.
Hello, Dean Fabrizio.
I'm here.
Ron Feligno.
Here.
Dave Gala.
Here.
All right, Kelly Malazzi.
Here.
And Mike Buswell, I believe I see you.
Here.
Great, okay. Really quickly, if we could have a short moment of silence. Obviously, this is the eve of September 11th, which I think everybody remembers where they were that day. And with the violence in Denver and Utah today, I think it's worthy of us having a moment of silence and hoping violence stops and peace begins. So if you could take a moment, please. All right, thank you all. I appreciate that. We are going to go right to the minutes approval of the July 23rd, 2025 meeting minutes, the last time we were together. By the way, it's good to see everybody. Hopefully everybody is still enjoying their summer because I haven't given up yet. We still have another week or so. It's so great to see everybody. It's been a while. If we can move on with the approval of the July 23rd, 25 meeting minutes, if I could get a someone to approve that.
So moved, Dawn Contafio.
Dawn,
Second, Dave Gala.
That's, you guys make it easy. I just fill in the blanks.
We have one change, Lori.
And then, of course, my Rich. After I talked to you, I found two more. But why don't you start with the one, and I'll tail on top of you.
Okay, so the amount that they put down for the bonding was incorrect.
Yes.
I had it right in front of me, and now it's disappeared. But it was 27,115,000 is what it's supposed to be, and I think the meeting minutes said 27,100,215,000.
They did. It did. So I did not catch that before they went in. Joanne might not have either. So we will make that change. The two I'm going to add onto this amendment is I'm a stickler for names being spelled right. And Dave, you are not Dave Gallo. You are Dave Gala.
Thank you.
Who gets her name butchered a lot. I want to throw that one in. So if we'll make that change. And then the only other thing, and just so it's clear to people, in that same paragraph about expending the 27,215 or 115, there is a sentence that begins with, prior to the election, town council will prepare a statement explaining what the referendum is. That was actually prepared, and I won't get all the people right, but basically by the town attorneys, myself and Michelle added into that, and then it was reviewed by the town council chair. But town council does not have the responsibility to prepare that explanatory text. It really falls on the town clerk with the input from the people I described above. So didn't want to have anybody confused about that. So if we could approve the minutes as amended, I can get a first and a second.
So moved, Dawn Contafio.
Thank you.
Second, Dave Gala.
There we go. And are we all in agreement? Unanimous?
Yep.
So moved.
Yes.
Great. Thank you all. All right. Hopefully we'll get those down.
I need to abstain. I was absent.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Christine. I appreciate that. And I'll always remind people, if you watch a meeting on TCTV, you are still allowed to vote on the minutes, but no worries if you don't either. That's fine. Okay, just for hopefully further meetings, so we understand that. The next order of business is a QA&M invoice approval. Can I have a motion to approve that? It is, well, let me get the number down correctly. Invoice number 17263 in the amount of $28,266.90.
So moved, Dawn Contafio.
Thank you. And a second?
Second, Rich Kroll.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, any discussion? I can kind of give a little overview, and then if anybody has any questions, but this is basically the final invoice we'll get based on the extended contract. They are still doing work. Obviously, we have our next order of business, which is to talk about the forum meeting on next Wednesday, the 17th. So they're still doing work, but they kind of encapsulated this into this final invoice, and we have a statement that says this will be the final invoice for this body of work. You'll see there's a credit to match available funding. There was some confusion, I shouldn't say confusion, but some miscommunication about some things that have been billed, and our last contract was a not to exceed number. And so this is the final one that will not exceed the $125,000 that we agreed upon with Q&A&M. So hopefully everyone understands how that works. Any other discussion before we approve this?
No.
All right, we're good. All right, so can I take that as unanimous consent? Anyone in
objection.
disagreement? Okay. Hopefully we'll be seeing more of these in the future. I can say that here. So like I said, this is going to be quick and easy, but I do want to talk a little bit about the town forum and presentation that is planned for next Wednesday, September 17th at 7 p.m. at Madison Middle School. I want to give you guys a little bit of the format from what I understand it, and talking to a few of the people who will be speaking. And I did pull out somewhat of an agenda so you guys understand what's going to happen. It's going to follow, if anybody was at the Hillcrest discussion that happened, was that just last year? Yes, just last year, followed the same format. Unfortunately, we can't do it in the senior center because there's not enough room. That would have been ideal. But I do want to mention that Michelle and Ronnie are going to be offering tours to the senior center for anyone who's interested. I know most of you have been, but if you want to spread that information. The gist of it is going to be a presentation from probably an introduction by Vicki about the referendum and kind of how that works. I do have explanatory text. I can read it to you guys if you choose, or I can probably even send it to you. It's pretty basic, it follows kind of a format, but she'll explain about the referendum. There'll be some input from both Michelle Jacob and George Estrada, who will talk about the current center, what goes on there, what some plans for some of the community use, and they'll do a short bit about that. The main gist of the presentation will come from Tom and Rocco, who will give a little bit of history, but really focus on showcasing the building, option 7, as it's like to be, as we called it, which we need to find a different name for that. But they'll be showcasing that. There'll be and I'm not going to remember his last name, but our financial advisor, Matt, I could look it up, but we're going to go with Matt, is going to discuss how bonding works and what the tax impact will be. And then finally, it will be a kind of a Q&A. What we'll probably do, and I haven't talked to the whole group about this, but maybe kind of list out a bunch of FAQs anyhow that people may have. And then what the format that Hillcrest used, and they're suggesting use again now, is that at the beginning and throughout the process that we hand out index cards and pens or pencils for people to come up with questions. We'll put them in a basket and pull them out. And if they haven't been answered in the presentation, we'll be able to answer them there. So that is really what they're planning on. I'm not really sure what the timing will be, but hopefully it will give enough people factual information. There's a lot of different information out there, but we're going to really try to stick with, what is actually happening in that building, what the history has been, and what the plans are. So any questions? And I see Dawn's hand up.
Thanks, Lori. I have a question on, do we have a number of how many questions, or, if some people kind of take it in a different direction, are we going to be able to bring it back to really just giving facts and, information instead of getting in a back and forth kind of presentation? That's
well,
the
so
only
it was suggested, see Dean waving David, that they take this format of bringing them by note card and pencils and having all those questions beforehand. I think, we want to be fair that any any question is open, but I think there will be a limit as there was to Hillcrest. I'm not sure exactly what that will be, but I know my goal would not to be to kind of filter the questions, but if a question's already been answered in the presentation, I really hope we can kind of, end that there and kind of refer back to that. And that's why I literally just had the thought today to kind of put up the FAQs for people who are really new to this. And some of that may just be answered if we keep maybe that that visual up. Some of those will be answered too. So, we're meeting tomorrow to kind of talk about how that's going to work. I mean, but hopefully what we'll do is whoever on the panel can answer it to the best of their ability if it hasn't been answered already. That's what our goal is to do.
And do you want us sitting any certain place, or are we just going to kind of be within the crowd in case,
Whatever works for you guys, but since you asked what you could do, or did you, at the beginning, actually, if we get, we have no idea what this crowd size is going to be. We really hope there's a lot of people there because it's important they really understand this. But it perhaps be helping to hand out those note cards and pens and pencils will be appreciated, and then collecting them. As always, if anybody's been to the high school forum, they know my job there is to push people to the front of the building. Madison is pretty big. It holds 700 people. So if we can get people to sit towards the front of the auditorium, so I'll call you guys ushers. And if you could help to do that, that would be really helpful. The only other thing I thought of afterwards is that if I know after the Hillcrest thing, there were people who had questions who kind of hung around and asked them. So if anybody's comfortable doing that, you guys are all well versed in this. And if you feel comfortable answering questions, I can kind of offer that out that, some committee members may be here to answer any questions if people have specifics.
So you want us there a little early, like 6:30 to kind of help, or?
I mean, early would be great, just
Okay.
as handing things out. It's really hard to tell. This is a Wednesday night in September who's going to come. But I never shy away from being prepared if possible, so I'll take that.
Okay, thank you.
Good time. Okay, Rich.
So I have a conflict with a planning and zoning meeting
Oh, I
that
know.
night. So I won't be there. I'd like to be there.
No,
Is it
sorry.
going to be recorded or is it just a live and that's it?
No, I'm pretty sure it's going to be recorded. Somebody asked the other day, and I wasn't paying attention, but I believe Hillcrest was, so I'm sure that's the plan. I can check with Laura tomorrow and I'm double checking that, but I'm 90% sure that that's the plan. And that's the way to get more information out to people. So I really hope that is what they're able to do.
Yeah, Bill just shook his head. Yes, so.
Okay, thanks, Bill. From his little corner.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, it'd be
Sorry you
especially
can't
good
be
to
there,
know
Rich. I
the,
did see
the
that was
tax-
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
it would be good to know the tax impact, if we get asked.
Yeah, so you know what, I can give you a quick sentence on that because it is an explanatory text, so it is public information now, but the easy math that I've been going with that the financial advisor came up with the financial team is that per $100,000 of assessed value of any home, and that's assessed value, not market value, should average about $30 a year per $100,000 of assessed value. Obviously, I am no financial person in any way, but the way bonding works, that goes up and down, up for a while, back down. But that is the number we've given as the average over the life of the bond per $100,000 assessed value. If that helps.
What are the life of these bonds? Is it 20 years?
It's I believe it's 20, but there's and there's more financial people on here than me, but there's I think a 2-year start where things start to pop in, but I believe the bond is considered to be a 20-year bond.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Kelly.
So it's an official town meeting that presumably will follow Robert's rules and all of that. Are you chairing it or is Vicky is it Vicky
Absolutely
running
not.
this meeting?
So Kel, that's a good question. It's considered a forum, which I don't know, and I can ask Dan Schopek, what that is. But there's no quorum because this isn't a committee; it's a town forum. So I don't know how much of Robert's rules can be followed in those instances. It's a town-run informational meeting, so I don't think it falls under those same. There's not minutes that are going to be taken, et cetera.
It also feels like whatever George is going to say, it feels like those segments of the speech might almost be better. I mean, I don't know if you can extract that from a video. I'm not an AV person, but if someone could almost like record those as more like shareable, digestible chunks for the public, but I don't know if this is the right place to talk about that, but just
Yeah,
in
I mean,
terms
I
of,
can kind of see what that's going to look like in the loop. The main part of the loop is going to be what QA&M shares. My understanding from George is he was kind of speaking more than presenting. That a lot of that information that he really will back up is going to be within QA&M's presentation. Our real focus is on the building and what its uses are, and how it's kind of laid out, et cetera. So, but I can certainly bring that up
well,
with
and
George.
maybe even just like the state of the existing building, right? Like if George can speak to.
That's
some
what he's focusing on.
Okay, good. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, because I think even the idea I think is to kind of respond to questions people have had, and I know people have had why not Priscilla Place, people who haven't been involved in the history of this. So I think they're trying to touch point a lot of that without going too deeply into anything, because you have a limited amount of time. You want people's questions answered. So, but if there's anything else you're thinking of, I can certainly share it with either George or Michelle. I did ask Michelle, and I haven't heard back from her about maybe putting out some membership numbers and senior programming, what social services does, the kind of things that people may not know that that's what happens in a center such as this. So I'll take any other input on that, and I can gladly share with those that are speaking. I think George and Michelle weren't sure that they were going to be speaking, so I think they're kind of putting that together now. So Dean or Dave, whichever the little duo over there would like
It
to
was me. It was me. Are we going to have a handout, like a little card or something? And the reason I ask that is because there's a lot of the misinformation is based on like either misinformation or derivative misinformation. Like if you could just say that, hey, the building square footage from, the church properties was this, and the new is this, some people are saying it's 3 times as big. It's being shoehorned. The impervious, that people talk about drainage, which I don't think is correct as well. Maybe we can compare the impervious surface area, old versus new. And then also just to hop on the assessed versus the appraised. I'm not trying to game the system or anything, but the assessed value is 70% of the appraised value. So I think if someone thinks they have a $100,000 house, they're going to pay $30 on it, and that's not true. They'd be paying 70% of $30. So maybe could we switch it to the appraised value, because people know what their house is worth. I think they mix it up. No one really talks about assessed values.
Right, and we talked about I asked the financial advisor to be really clear about that. I kind of asked him for like bonding and assessment for dummies kind of course, and if he could, the number is based on in his chart. He based this number on assessed value. And so we didn't really want to play with that, but I think we need to be really clear about it. In the explanatory text, it is made clear that it's assessed, not market value. I think we need to drive that point home. And I know I don't know their formula for doing that. Like I said, I don't touch that financial stuff, but that was the way they did it for Hillcrest. That's the way they did it here. I did ask them, I believe for Hillcrest, they kind of had 3 columns. There was like $100,000 column. There's a $300,000 column. There's a 500. We did just say to simplify, go with 100, and people can do that math a lot easier. I know there's a way that people can find their assessed value. I know there's a way outside of the town and inside of the town. So if we can add that to that conversation, we're going to try to do that. I have that on my notes of how people can find out what their assessed value is.
Laura, you could point people to the Vision website. So Vision Government Services.
Yeah, that's what I looked it up. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's super easy. That'll give everybody the exact number.
Yes. Actually, that's how I've always looked up as we've been looking at these different properties. That's been kind of my cheat sheet. But so that I think that's kind of the way to go right now, and I think that's a clearer part. As far as your first point, Dean, about handouts, I don't know if the group, because this is a town decision, if they've chosen to do that. This is the problem with it. Even coming up with talking points, people have just said, can you give me some clear facts, which is kind of what the explanatory text is. This is the building, this is how much it costs, etc. We could go down such a rabbit hole. There are probably, for every one question, there's 5 that could be followed up. So, when we talk about, I forget what your first point was, something about drainage, then that could lead to something else. We could go on forever. So we're trying to really keep things as general possible and then maybe hone in on them in conversations such as Wednesday night, but trying to come up like, what's the best part? Disputing misinformation. We'll be chasing our tails forever. And so what we're trying to do is just give the facts as they are. If people want to question that, then hopefully all of us have enough knowledge about it to be able to clarify as necessary. But just today, I could have written 10 things that somebody got confused about. And these are even for people who support it, not even people who don't, it's a very confusing thing. So I think we have to be realistic about what our expectations are. And we may be able to put out some, just factual talking points. This is the building, this is what it, does, et cetera. And then we keep referencing that if any more information is needed of where it can be found.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I know what I forgot as I just looked at the agenda. The other person that we're hoping can talk, because she has a lot of good points, so she's not stuck with you, Rich, at Planning and Zoning, is Rena Baccalar. So hopefully going to be able to get in there. She has a lot of good information and excitement about potential other revenue sources that is going to bring hopefully that number down significantly. Obviously, we've talked about this a million times. We can't guarantee any of that until there's a commitment from the town. So that doesn't come until after the referendum. But, there's always been a lot of conversation if people felt like they were getting kind of Hillcrest on sale because we got that 44%, discount. And we're hoping that there's definitely grants that Rena's pursuing. There's other things that can kind of piggyback off of this if we land on doing this. So Rena will talk about that to the extent that she can, but that it's the absolute goal of the town to look to reduce this $27 million number. I think that's all I forgot from that little piece. Anybody else have questions? You guys are welcome to, I don't know if you'll have any questions, but if there's something you heard that you want to put in or something that pops in your head, you were there as not as a committee, it's not a committee meeting. You're there as a Trumbull citizen and have every right. The last thing I would do is please, please, please spread the word. The more people that know about this, the more informed voters they are. And that's really been my message. Everybody has a choice about what they do, but you hopefully do it with as much information as possible. And as much as people will probably doubt whether that information is true or not, any of you that have been working on this, anybody that's been involved in it, is that we don't have any options to give out false information about this. Everything is disputable and everything is defendable. So I really look at this as a factual evening, and the more people there that get the facts, the more informed voters we have. Christine, did you have your hand up?
I did. I just wanted to, in terms of the presentation materials, and I know that Tom will do an excellent job as he walks through it, but I think that there's some chatter about sidewalks, and so I expect that might come up as a question, and we all support the notion of sidewalks, and it was recommended both by the architect and by the traffic engineer. So I think I just wanted to note that whomever's putting together the materials should try to address that so it doesn't only come up as a question but is brought up.
That's a great, and I think that was in the FAQ's original ones, but I can certainly add it. But I also know that is George's department, because it is not in the architects. It is going to be part of MetroCog and a grant that goes through them.
So just so that process, because it involves planning that isn't just within our town, that involves the state and that regional agency MetroCog. So I just, if that gets talked about in a level of detail that is educational and informative, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, we actually brought that up at the meeting the other day because people are trying to clarify that. And, George was saying it was in the plan for sidewalks to be part of that extended corridor. whether this building is there or not, I believe. So I will have him put that into the public works section of this
I'm
discussion.
sure it's already there, right? So yeah. I'm sure it's
Yeah,
already
yeah,
there.
but worth mentioning for sure. Worth mentioning for sure, because somebody did even bring it up the other day who probably should know. So that's a great point. Anything else that you guys feel is important for the speakers to address? Believe it or not, I don't plan on speaking other than to answer put out the questions. I know it'll be hard for me, but I'm really, this is a town informational meeting. This is the town's referendum. We're just there to supply the information, and hopefully people will listen and learn more about this. I think one of the main questions that I kept discussing the other day is people really understanding why it is a senior and community center, and ways that it can be used for that. So I'm hoping that is driven that point is driven that night, and that people get a better understanding. But also, I say this every time, every time I feel like I find out more about how much they're doing there and how big the membership there is. I know I heard mention that at the some meeting the other night, someone said, "Why are we doing this? There's only like 10 people that go to the senior center," and that is just so far from the truth. Which is why I've asked Michelle to share the membership numbers, as well as active members. How many people are using programs? I think people have no idea, let alone the social services and the other things that go on there. So and hopefully it'll be a big informational session about during Senior Center Month. It is Senior Center Month, and that's my final before I forget. If anybody isn't following them on social, they're doing some really cool stuff to promote Senior Center, and they're calling it I believe something like Flip the Script on Aging or something like that, and handing out buttons and have great videos about some of the stuff that's going there, and it's exciting. Good news for them. All right. Anybody have anything else? All right, so
I'll just one more
Sure.
item.
Yeah.
Some people have expressed concerns about the ability of the facility to handle growth, if the new facility goes in. So
Mhm.
if the town has any information on that, they may want to include it.
Yeah, that might even be
Growth of the membership, that is.
Yeah. Right. I mean, the membership numbers are high. It's more use, right? And that may be a combination of Michelle and Tom and Rocco kind of seeing about. I mean, the flexibility of spaces has kind of been what we've been focusing on, but maybe Michelle can kind of attest to what they'd like to see happen and how they could see that happening. I will say, when we were kind of really poring over these options, which was, I don't even know what the word is because it literally makes me shake. It was so difficult for Michelle because she was really literally measuring by a ruler, saying if this room is this big by this big, this is how many people can fit in it. And then she'd chat GPT it and make sure that was the right amount. And she really is planning on future growth, but maybe she needs to address that. So that's a good point. Thanks, Rich. Any other points for anybody? We're good. I am really, really hoping that we're meeting together again in 2 months, and that we are excitedly starting this wonderful project. I get to say that here. I may not be able to say that at another place, but I'm happily saying it here. This has been a long time coming. I'm cautiously optimistic and really hopeful that we will be able to present for the town something that is going to work for everyone, and that people really come on board with this wonderful project. And finally, I'll just say, but it feels like I'm saying goodbye, but I'm not, but a big thank you. So many of you have been through this for years and years and years. I always joke about, like, I wasn't a senior before, but a lot of you weren't either, and you're heading right there. So we'll have to actually, if we put all the years together there's 9 of us here and 2 others that aren't, we're older than the senior center itself, of how many years we've been working on this. And I am so appreciative for everybody's different perspective and viewpoint, and keeping me on task and re-energizing me when I'm exhausted from this. So many, many thanks to all of you.
And thank you, Lori, for everything you've done too.
Of course.
Yep. Thank you for the good leadership, Lori.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for thanks my hairdresser.
So,
Rich,
no
yeah.
meeting next month, is that?
I don't see a reason. I'll always say if something comes up that needs, we are paid up. Unless something changes that they feel the committee needs to address. I don't see how we'd have any particular business at this point unless, I never say never. So I would say keep that date open, which whatever that Wednesday is in October, as a possibility. But I can't imagine, like I said, no more bills, no more, there should be no more actual big decisions to make until November, ideally. All right. So with that, not bad, 7:31, 30 minutes to the exact, and I call for adjournment and unanimously decide that that's where we're going.
So moved.
All right, everybody good? All right, thank you everybody for
Yes.
jumping on. Thanks, Bill. Have a good night,
Thank you.
everybody. Take care.
Take
Right.
care.
Everyone.
Thanks, Lori.
Stay
Bye,
happy and
guys.
healthy,
Everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, same.
Lori,
same.
we'll see more of you.
Yeah.
Leave webinar.